Good Friday afternoon to you. Hope your weekend is off to a good start. Welcome to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. Busy show tonight. We will talk about some Cavs and NBA playoffs. We'll also talk about the Browns and the 25 moves that kind of got the Browns to where they are. And we will also welcome in Mandy Bell from MLB.com as we start to talk Indians. Indians getting set for a 3-game series in Oakland. Mandy, appreciate the time. And as we take a look at the pitching matchups, kind of interesting is you've got Cody Anderson and Yefry Rodriguez around Trevor Bauer. So two guys that started the year in the minors.
Yeah, and whenever they set that up earlier this week, whenever Cody and Yefry both got the call up to the big leagues, they wanted to make sure that Trevor Bauer was in between those two guys, just in case there was a situation that would arise where the bullpen would be taxed either day. Trevor Bauer's one arm that they typically can rely on each time out to give them some depth. So he's a nice person to have in between those two guys. And that's what happened last time when Cody Anderson lasted just 2/3 of an inning. I know they're going to be hoping to see a turnaround from him, and I know that he's hoping for that as well. You could just tell how crushed he was after that last start. He just desperately wanted to give his team depth, and he was unable to do that in his first start since 2016, as he's been recovering from Tommy John surgery the past 2 years. So he's going to definitely be looking to get some more depth, and the team really, really needs to see that from him to make sure that he's going to be able to stay up here for a few more starts as they wait for their rotation to get healthy.
Rodriguez is a guy that's given him 3 really good starts. You see an 0-2 record, ERA under 3, though. He's been outstanding. Let's talk a little bit about guys that could be coming. So say things don't go well for Cody Anderson. Again, he's a guy that's building up arm strength. You're never quite sure how that's going to go for him. Is Wojciechowski a guy down in AAA that they could be looking at? Asher Wojciechowski is a guy, his ERA is it's under 2. He's a career minor league guy, 30 years old, though, hasn't really had success at the big league level.
Well, his numbers are hard to ignore at this point. I mean, if they do run into some trouble with Anderson again on the mound this time, I know their wheels are going to be turning. They're going to be thinking about the options that they have. Adam Pleco got back to Columbus this past week, but his first start didn't really go as planned. I think it was he gave up like 5 runs and less than an inning in his first start back. So he's been battling right forearm strain. So if he's not really an option just yet for them, I could see Asher Wojciechowski being somebody that they start to look at a little bit more, just because if they don't really have too many options with both Clevenger and Kluber still on the injured list, I think that he would have a shot to at least get a look. I mean, his numbers definitely deserve it.
Another guy that's been hitting really well is Oscar Mercado, center fielder. He's opened some eyes. That's a potential future leadoff hitter. Steals bases, has really been doing it all. A guy that got in a trade deadline from the Cardinals last year. He's been opening eyes.
He really has, and he's been doing that since the first day that he showed up to spring training this year. He completely wowed the coaching staff. They were expecting the defense, they were expecting the speed, they were expecting all these tools, but they weren't expecting him to be quite as good of a hitter as what he showed during camp, and that made them consider, man, should he even break camp with us? But Terry Francona said from the get-go, whenever they optioned him back down to AAA, was April in Cleveland can do some horrible things to some guys at the plate, and we don't want him to start his big league career in that situation. So April's now completely out of the way. We've turned the calendar page over to May. I could see him being called up soon, but right now Jordan Luplow is hitting so well. He's that right-handed bat in the lineup right now for the outfield situation that's been really able to fill in at every single spot in the outfield. He's proven to be a solid center fielder as well whenever Leonis Martin needs a break. So as long as he's hitting, they already have so many outfielders right now. I just don't see the move they make. I don't see how he's able to squeeze in just yet. But he's going to be coming. It's just inevitable.
Mandy Bell, the Indians beat reporter for MLB.com, joining us. Mandy, let's talk potential guys that are out there free agent-wise. One, Matt Kemp, released, kind of fits with what you were saying, outfielder, a veteran of many years. Another guy that the Indians have looked at is James Shields, Indians, Rangers, Tigers, the 3 teams looking at that. Could you see Shields potentially being a guy that comes in to plug that hole in the rotation for the Indians?
Yeah, I mean, there's been rumors, there's been confirmation that at least for MLB.com, I know John Morosi reported earlier this week that the Indians have been looking at him a little bit, and I can see why. The situation that they've been put in right now, there's no hurt in actually just taking a quick look, and honestly, if the situation continues to go the way that it looks like it's going right now, I could see it being an option for the Tribe. I don't think that this is something that you rule completely off the table at this point. Matt Kemp, I don't see. He's not someone like Shields where I could see it at least being in the picture. Matt Kemp, I'm not. I just don't see how he would fit in. Carlos Gonzalez was their move. That was their veteran outfielder that they were able to slide in at the end of spring training on a minor league deal. And he's been playing solid defense for him. I know offensively he's hoping it turns around a little bit quicker now, but defensively he's been solid for them. And I don't see them adding someone of that sort of same area into this mix because they have Oscar Mercado. They have Daniel Johnson a little bit further down into the farm system. They have guys that they do want to get up here, and they already have 5 outfielders in the mix right now. I just don't see Kemp being somebody that could possibly slide into this roster.
Mandy Bell, the Indians beat reporter from MLB.com. We appreciate the time as follow Mandy on MLB.com and Indians.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. When we return, we will check in with Doug Lesmerises and the Corey Kluber injury. That's straight ahead on More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Stay with us.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. We're going to stick with the Indians topic, and we're going to talk a little bit about some injuries and some guys that the Indians may be able to trust and need to step up. Let's welcome in Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com. Doug, appreciate the time. Let's talk Corey Kluber. Injury, a concern, obviously. Anytime a Cy Young guy goes down, long term, what are your thoughts just about this with Corey Kluber?
I hate the idea when people turn everything bad into something good. But when I was at the Indians the other day when Kluber talked, I do think it's possible. This is the kind of injury, if a pitcher's going to miss a couple months, you'd rather have him miss it with a fluke broken bone off a batted ball rather than with an elbow injury or a shoulder injury that's from actual pitching, right? So this guy has carried a load 5 straight years of at least 200 innings. Those 5 years, postseason and regular season combined, 14 to 18, Corey Kluber threw more innings than anybody in baseball. Nobody had carried a team or carried a staff the way Corey Kluber did. So, long term, I think he could use the rest. Nobody would pick it. Nobody wants his arm to be broken. But it's what I wrote. It's what I asked Kluber and Terry Francona about. And Francona then talked about how last year Kluber was battling health issues that forced him into adjustment start to start. This guy has been a workhorse. And in the middle of his career, in his mid-30s, it happened to Justin Verlander. When he was in Detroit, he went on the disabled list for the first time in his life after the worst season of his career. And look what Justin Verlander has done the last 5 years. He revitalized himself. If you were worried about Corey Kluber's 5.8 ERA in his first 7 starts this year, I would not be worried long term. But I think it's possible that a couple months off right now will help him on the back end over the next few seasons.
And obviously, to dovetail off of that, he has almost as many walks in his first 5 starts as he had all last year, and I think that speaks to the workload that you're speaking of. Another interesting article you had that actually hit today, hitters that you can trust that Terry Francona should trust. Take us through that and just the thought process and what you came to as far as the conclusion goes with that.
Yeah, the conclusion is good luck, Tito, right? I mean, I don't know what he's going to do. Not a lot of sure things, especially in the outfield. And I think when you really break it down, when Bradley Zimmer, if you think he's going to get back healthy, Oscar Mercado is an option. as a prospect. Greg Allen was sent down. He could be back. They really have 8 potential guys. By the time they get to June or July, they might have 8 potential guys for the 3 outfield spots in the 8. And who do you play? And one of Terry Francona's great strengths as a manager in a Hall of Fame career is believing in guys. But who do you believe in? Do you believe in Leonis Martin and Carlos Gonzalez as older guys? Do you believe in Jordan Luplow and Tyler Naquin and Jake Bowers and Greg Allen as younger guys? His belief has helped guys, but he's going to have to decide who he's going to believe in. And I think he's in a tough spot with this outfield. I'd always rather have a couple sure things than try to figure out you have 8 maybes for 4 spots. It is going to matter a lot, the production they get from this outfield. It's as bad offensively as any outfield in baseball. And Tito is going to have to mix and match, and he's going to have guys struggle and keep them in there. He's going to have to bench guys at the right time. The conclusion was there is no conclusion. I think Terry Francona is the right guy to figure it out, but I think he is in a very tough spot because his inclination as a manager is to let guys fight through their problems, struggle and stick with them. But if they stick too long, those guys could help them lose a couple games that might make the difference between making the playoffs or not. So the conclusion is, I don't know what Terry Francona is going to do, and how he figures out the outfield might determine this season.
Well, Hall of Fame manager someday. He gets to deal with those problems. Let's shift gears a little bit. Loved what you did with the 25 decisions that transformed the Browns. You kind of looked at it in a wide scope and where the Browns are now. Let's go through the biggest decision that got the Browns to where they are, and maybe the most underrated that kind of maybe flew under the radar, but you're going to look back and go, boy, that was really important.
Well, I think the biggest is the Beckham trade, and it's because I think, picking Baker Mayfield obviously was number 1 on my list, but other teams would have picked Baker Mayfield. And the Browns earned that number 1 pick before John Dorsey got here by going 0-16. But I don't know if any other GM in the game could have pulled off the Beckham trade. And they just had the exact right pieces to make it work. They had drafted Austin Corbett so you could trade Kevin Zeitler, and that got the talk with the Giants going, even though he really led to Olivier Vernon. You had Jabril Peppers as an extra first-round pick. You could throw him in there. He was a big part of that deal. I just think the way Dorsey, there were pieces there that were available to him, but that he combined those pieces into a franchise-changing receiver. It's obvious, but I don't know that many other guys could have done it, and I think that really, in the end, may be the decision that brings this all together for the Browns.
And as far as one that goes maybe under the radar?
And again, everybody kind of knows this. It's a lot of the Sashi Brown moves, but there's the one move that stands out to me. It's the second part of the Wentz trade down, and that's the trade down out of the 12th spot where they could have taken Deshaun Watson. Because what they wound up doing was turning – people call it a trade down. They traded up because they traded down and got a pick in the 20s that year that turned into Peppers, which was a valuable piece. And then the first-round pick they got the next year from the Texans because Watson got hurt, that was the number 4 pick in the draft. So they turned number 12 into number 4 and number 25. And then that became Denzel Ward. So by not drafting Deshaun Watson, you created Denzel Ward, which is huge, and you left yourself the opportunity to draft Baker Mayfield because you still needed a quarterback. So a lot of people talk about the Carson Wentz trade originally, the original trade down. But the thing that makes that trade at all palatable, and a lot of people hate it, and they didn't do a good job drafting after, but it's the second trade down to pass on Malik Hooker and Deshaun Watson at that 12th spot, and the result is Peppers, who turns into Beckham partially, Ward, and the chance to draft Mayfield. So I love Deshaun Watson, but if they had taken him, this would be a very different franchise. That changed this team.
Doug Lesmerises, as always, we appreciate the time and the insight. You can read him in cleveland.com columnist Doug Lesmerises. We're going to step aside, take a timeout. When we return, we'll check in with Jake Burns and take a look at some of the new defensive backs that were in Berea last week at rookie minicamp. More sports and less Levine Weekend Winners Edition will be right back.
When my dad started Nature Stone right here in Northeast Ohio, he created a solution for age-old concrete problems. Unevenness, cracking, pitting, and more. Nature Stone solves all of these problems in garages, basements, and outdoor spaces. Nature Stone is beautiful, environmentally friendly, and always affordable. Plus, Nature Stone is backed by Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty.
Get Nature Stone installed in your home by the end of May and get up to half off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. We're going to stick with Cleveland Browns talk, and we're going to transition into 2019 draft class. Let's welcome in Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. Jake, let's talk about the guy they got, Greedy Williams. What do you like about him? What do you see from Greedy? And were you surprised the Browns got him that deep in the second round?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Greedy Williams, you're talking about one of the better cover corners in the draft. I think most experts felt that he was one of the better man-to-man, walk down in somebody's face and sort of play the toughest style of defense, which is true man coverage. And I think that they were pretty tickled to be able to find him in the second round. Now, it does feel like there are some issues with tackling. If you read Dave Aranda's quotes recently, the cleveland.com, Mary Kay Cabot wrote a piece on him. I got a little bit of a weird vibe from that. I got a little bit of a weird vibe from, some other quotes about his effort late in the season too. So that could speak to why he slipped. No one can ever really tell you, and really only Greedy knows some of those answers. But it does sound like he's motivated, being the seventh corner off the board. He's going to have a transition. I'm sure most of us saw the clip from rookie minicamp where he was beat over the top playing, off coverage and backpedaling. Some different technique things he'll have to adjust to with how the Browns might play coverage. You would hope that the Browns would tilt their tendencies to play a bit more man coverage with Denzel Ward and Greedy, because those guys both, excel in those departments. But if you just look at what Wilkes' history is, he plays a lot of zone. So I think it'll be interesting to pay attention to how these two young corners transition to playing a lot of zone, and if the Browns are going to sort of shift how they approach defensive football to get to those strengths of their cornerbacks. But nonetheless, Greedy's a great football player in terms of just technique at the corner position. He did grade surprisingly well in zone coverage, so he does have the natural instincts and understanding of route patterns that goes with playing zone coverage, but that's certainly not his best part of his game. So I think teams might have saw a little bit of those issues with the overall completeness of his game, maybe a little bit of an issue with his size, as he's a very slender guy, taller guy, but very slender, narrow shoulders, those sorts of things that could have scared them off a little bit. But I think the Browns should be thrilled with where they got him with the pick 46, because it's a guy that has traits that could have ended up going in the first round. So you feel good about that for the Browns who didn't have a first-round pick.
Let's talk about a guy they got at safety as well. Played some corner in Sheldrick-Redwine. What do you see with him? What do you like about him?
A pretty good football player. Lanky, can run really well. I think he's got some leadership qualities to him. If you listen to him talk, I like the way he articulates his thought process, and he seems like a very cerebral football player. I'm not sure he's best as anything other than a true free safety, which they have Demarius Randall to play that position right now. So if you look at the Browns' plan as possibly a guy who can replace Demarius over the long haul, can be that guy for them as a free safety. If they can't pay Demarius long term, he could be that ideal fit. He does really well instinctually playing center field, and I think that's where he's best suited. He did a little bit of everything at Miami. He played some box stuff up near the line of scrimmage. He would walk down and play a little bit of man coverage stuff, but those aren't what he's best at. I think he's best as an instinctual center field type in a cover three scheme, which means a single high safety, a guy who can play with his athleticism, read the quarterback's eyes, and when he can come downfield and tackle people, he's very aggressive. And you'll watch a lot of his tape, which I wrote on that for cleveland.com. His tape shows a guy that can come down from center field, takes good angles, good sure tackler, and it makes a lot of sense for him to be at that middle of the field, coverage player for the Browns long term. But he's also a very good special teams player too. Was really effective for Miami early in his career. And I think the Browns, as they look at bolstering that special teams, and this is sort of a theme, Dave, from this draft, is athletic football players who can contribute over the long haul, but are going to immediately improve an important aspect that the Browns truly struggled as the worst team in special teams overall last year. That was a big theme to me with this draft, and I do think they improved special teams by adding players with a nose for the football and the ability to play multiple facets of special teams in this draft.
Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Jake will stay with us. We will talk linebackers, a couple more athletic guys that can get to the football as Jake evaluates the linebackers when we return to the Weekend Winners Edition.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family cool this summer,
let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at 440-449-HEAT.
Welcome back. Let's head right back out to Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. Let's talk a little bit about linebackers. Got a couple of them that people seem to be interested in. Sione-takitaki. What do you see about him? What do you like about him, Jake?
They got to like his play speed. He plays fast. He plays aggressive all the time. If you've read anything, and another guy I wrote on there in Sione, you know, it's a good overcoming hardship story. He went through several suspensions, was kicked off the BYU team after his sophomore year, got his life back together, met his future wife there at BYU, and really turned his career around. Played a lot of edge in 2017. Was effective as an edge defender in a different scheme, and then they switched to a 4-3 his senior year, and he really took off as an inside linebacker. Really good sideline-to-sideline range. Aggressive, like I said, in blitz scenarios, does a nice job with long arms, taking on blocks, which is also highly effective too. And he's athletic enough to play man coverage, which I think is why he shot up the board, because you need linebackers who can play man coverage, so he can do that well. So what Cleveland fans should be excited about is an aggressive player, can play inside or out, positional versatility, and a hungry personality for a guy who's turned his life around and really eager to prove himself as a third-round pick.
Another guy they got later in the draft was Mack-Wilson. You surprised how late they got him, and do you see maybe a little bit more polish from Mack-Wilson playing at Alabama?
That's tough. I'm currently studying a ton about Mack-Wilson. I'll just say this: I understand why he fell to the 5th round. I think he comes from a good system, Alabama, where they really get the most out of their players. He's just a sound football player. He's not overly athletic. He's not in Takitaki's athletic ability range. He's just sort of he's solid. I don't know what other way to say it. He doesn't jump off the film. He doesn't really possess that elite athleticism that you look for in some of these linebackers that are running 4.4s, 4.5s. He doesn't do that stuff, and he doesn't have a high motor play speed. He didn't produce a ton of tackles at Alabama, and I just think that's because he doesn't have a nose for the football necessarily. Does that mean he can't tackle or that he doesn't understand how to diagnose things? No, but you need to have a nose for the football. And almost the best linebackers have that sixth sense for how to find it and diagnose plays that are happening almost before they happen, and he doesn't necessarily do that. But they did get in a really sound football player who I think can be a nice depth piece and could potentially be a third linebacker in a lot of systems, but he is not going to come in and blow the top off of things in terms of expectations, because I don't think he's quite there. He could surprise. I'm pulling for him as I pull for any of the guys the Browns select. But when you look at the film, you just sort of see a guy who built a reputation around a defense that was much better than the sum of what he was able to do for it. Like I said, does that mean he can't figure it out here and become a tackling machine? No, he could certainly figure that out and be a really good football player in Cleveland, but you're not looking at elite production at the college level. You're not looking at elite athleticism. You kind of tie those two together, and it makes sense why he fell to the 5th round. But you are getting a guy who's played at the highest level of college football. He's seen a lot of things. He understands how to play linebacker, and like I said, he could be a really nice 4th linebacker for the Browns who can play special teams, like I mentioned earlier, for a long time. And, if the coaching takes off and he turns the corner as an athlete a little bit, you never know what he could turn into. But the 5th round pick felt about right for that scenario, and I'm glad the Browns didn't reach any higher than that.
Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. We appreciate the insight on the rookie class on the defensive side for the defensive backs and the linebackers. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. When we return, Chris Fedor talks Cavs coaching search and NBA playoffs. More sports and less Levine Weekend Winners Edition. We'll be right back. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. NBA Draft Lottery early next week. Cavs obviously hoping to get that first-round pick. When we talk Cavs, we welcome in Cavs beat reporter for cleveland.com, Chris Fedor. Chris, we appreciate it. Before we get to that, let's talk Cavs head coaching search. Is there a leader in the clubhouse, and how close are they to getting this done?
Yeah, I don't think they're that close. I think two things. I think one, they're probably going to wait until after the draft lottery, see what happens if they get the first overall pick, where they're going to fall when it comes to the top six. And I think the other thing, Dave, is that you're talking about a series between Portland and Denver that is still going. It's about to go to a Game 7. There are two candidates from the Portland Trail Blazers, Nate Tibbetts, David Vanterpool, two assistants from the Blazers that the Cavs want to meet with. There are also two from the Denver Nuggets, Wes Unseld Jr. and Jordi Fernandez, who spent some time with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the past. The Cavs want to meet with those two guys as well. So until they do that and then probably go to a second round of interviews, I don't think they're going to be ready to name who they're going to tab as their next head coach. They've interviewed a number of people already. I'm not sure that there's necessarily a front runner. I think there are guys that make a lot of sense for what they're looking for. But I don't think they're at a point right now where one guy has stood out over the other.
Well, we mentioned the draft lottery. Let's take it to this level. If they do, in fact, get the first pick in the draft, and that will be Zion Williamson, does this automatically become the most desirable head coaching opening in the NBA, given the fact that, Dan Gilbert's willing to spend some money?
Yeah, I think there are certainly positives about this gig, Dave, and I think there are certainly some negatives about it as well. So whatever coach it is that wants this job is going to have to weigh those things. Los Angeles is a mess. They are poorly run. They have botched the coaching search. So I don't know necessarily that the Lakers' job is that desirable from that standpoint, but there's the other side of that too, where it's Los Angeles. They've got all that history attached to it. LeBron James is the centerpiece of that franchise. So that could be a positive. Memphis is a team that's in a salary cap situation that's not very great. They just turned over their front office. So there are positives and negatives to that one as well. So I just think when you look at each of these openings, there's a reason why all of them are open, and I don't know that one is significantly more desirable than the other. When it comes to the Cavs, it's a young team. They're going to have a lot of cap space into the future. They've got a lot of draft picks into the future. And as you said, Dave, Dan Gilbert can be looked at in some ways as an asset. He means well. He wants this team to be great. He's going to give everybody every resource imaginable so that they can compete for a championship. It's just there are some things about him where his execution has been called into question, and I think rightfully so. So it's all about how that prospective candidate views Dan Gilbert. He can be viewed as an asset. He also can likely be viewed as a detriment as well.
Let's talk a little bit about Ty-Lue. You mentioned the Lakers coaching search and how, that has been botched. Was he the perfect fit? I mean, and it came down to he wanted more years and they wanted less years, and this is a guy LeBron James is comfortable with. You kind of scratch your head. If ever there was a guy that seemed to be the right fit for the Lakers, it was Ty-Lue.
Yeah, no doubt about it, because the Lakers are a team that is trying to compete for championships, and Ty has shown that he can manage a bunch of different personalities. You can call into question his X's and O's and his rotations, but so much about the Lakers' job, Dave, is going to be about people management and personality management. And Ty has shown that he can do that, and he can handle the expectations that come with being that kind of coach for that kind of team. He can handle the pressure that comes with being in Los Angeles. And I think the number one thing that he had on his side, Dave, in terms of other candidates for the Lakers, Ty wanted that job. That was his dream job. He always wanted to be the head coach of the Lakers. So it would have appeased LeBron. You would have found somebody who absolutely wanted that job. He would have been willing to work with Rob Pelinka, who is not the easiest guy from what I've heard to work with. He would have been willing to come to the Lakers at a time where Magic Johnson is leaving and their front office is kind of in turmoil. So it made a lot of sense. And for the Lakers to treat Ty the way that they did and not treat him like a championship coach. I mean, Dave, guys around the NBA get 5-year deals. Luke Walton got a 5-year deal with the Sacramento Kings. The Lakers gave Luke Walton a 5-year deal. And you're trying to give Ty-Lue, who has a championship on his resume, a 3-year deal? That's completely disrespectful. And if that's how they're going to operate their business, then they're going to have a really, really hard time getting somebody that is going to be right for that particular job.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Kyrie Irving. The series where the Celtics lost to the Bucks was not a good one. He forced his way out of town, wanted to be the guy. 4 for 18, 8 for 22, 7 for 22, 6 for 21. Not spring birthdays or summer birthdays. That's his shooting percentage in games 2 through 5. I think he really hurt his reputation as a big player in big games.
Yeah, I think some team, including Boston, is going to really have to look at it and say, is Kyrie Irving a max player? Now, a lot of guys around the NBA that make max money that aren't that kind of player, and you just go for that kind of player because you can't get that guy anywhere else other than free agency. But he certainly did hurt his reputation, and I think some of the things that are coming out anonymously about what his teammates viewed of him and his style in Boston, that's certainly not going to help Kyrie either. I think he's a very complex guy, Dave. I think he likes it that way. I think any conversation about Kyrie is very, very complex because on one hand, the reason why the Cavs have a championship is in large part because of Kyrie, because of the style that he plays, because of the unwavering self-belief that he has. At the same time, all of those different traits have led to kind of where the Boston Celtics are right now, early playoff exit, and where Kyrie Irving is right now, staring at an uncertain future where, combined with his injury history, his attitude, how he carries himself, the questions about his leadership, a franchise is asking themselves, do we want to invest that much in this guy to make him the centerpiece of our franchise if we're going to try and chase down a championship? It's a very complex question that does not have an easy answer at this point.
Kind of get this picture of, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum going over to his apartment with packing tape and boxes, kind of getting ready to help him go. Let's see where the odds makers say he's likely to go, and where do you think Kyrie lands in free agency?
Yeah, I think the most likely are one of the 2 New York destinations. I think what happens with the Knicks is, especially in the draft lottery, is going to be really, really significant. I think what happens with the Boston Celtics and whether or not they can try and pull off a trade for Anthony Davis is significant. So let's say, for example, right, the New York Knicks land the first overall pick in the draft lottery, Dave. That means Zion Williamson, and that doesn't necessarily mean Zion is going to play in New York. The Knicks could use him as the centerpiece of an Anthony Davis trade. Anthony Davis to New York, along with potentially Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Now, all of a sudden, you have a big three that's as good as maybe any in the entire NBA. That's a solution, I think, for the Knicks, and I think a workable one for all those different parties involved. So what happens in the draft lottery, I think, is going to be huge. And then the Brooklyn Nets are a team, Dave, that people around Kyrie that know Kyrie well have been telling me since, November or December, don't overlook the Brooklyn Nets. Speak to him on an intellectual level in a way that maybe some of these other franchises can't because of how things are run in Brooklyn. And I think Kyrie obviously has ties to both New York and Brooklyn area, Manhattan that is, and the Brooklyn area, both those New York places that I think, one, are going to have money, and two, could be very, very appealing based on other moving parts in free agency.
Fedor, as always, we appreciate the insights on the NBA and at Cavs as well. Cleveland.com's Cavs beat reporter Chris Fedor. We are all out of time on this edition of More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Stick around as Bill Castrovince will join me for the High School Sports Insider. That's coming up right here on Cleveland.com. Stay with us.
Keep it simple.
Leaders lead. Leaders lead.
Let's go! Stop whining!
Again, go again, yes! You gotta rotate, go, Stone!
The High School Sports Insider is brought to you by Cuyahoga Community College, where futures begin. By the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. By Spectrum News One, always Ohio, always refreshing, always on, exclusively on Spectrum. By Dominion East Ohio, Dominion, it all starts here. And by Classic Teleproductions. It's the middle of May, the school year is winding down, and the spring sports are beginning their tournaments to crown state champions. We promise to finish up strong. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the High School Sports Insider. Along with Bill Castrovince, I'm Dave Bacon.
Over the next half hour, we'll spend some time in the diamond with an awesome ace and a big-time batter. Plus, we'll meet a track and field star they call the Pirate Cannon, and we'll talk with an OHSA official about the lack of officials. We begin tonight on the field, where lacrosse teams all across Ohio are getting ready to begin their state tournament marches. The Hoban Knights have, by any measure, had a successful season. Hoban earned a first-round bye in the Division II Region 6 state tournament draw. The Knights knew this would be a special season for their lacrosse team, and it has been. One they hope to continue with a deep state tournament run. The Hoban Knights, our team of the week. The success the Hoban lacrosse team is enjoying this season has been a few years in the making. 7 seniors start for the Knights this year, and they've been starters for the last 3 seasons, since back in their sophomore year.
We're playing well together. We have a very unselfish team, a lot of assists going on, very strong on faceoffs. That was evident today when number 8, Garrett Mellon, had a lot of wins. And defensively, we're playing together. It's a very senior-heavy team, and it's just the cohesion of everybody. It's a great team chemistry.
It helps us out big time, really build up the chemistry. So when we're out there, we kind of know each other's next move. So it helps us give us the advantage. Like, the defense doesn't know what we're going to do, but we know what each other are going to do before it even happens.
The Knights are a well-rounded team. Goalie Matt Russo has been outstanding for most of the season, and Garrett Mellon has been nearly unbeatable on faceoffs, making sure Hoban wins the possession battle.
I take pride in that, and I feel like getting possessions every game is very important because it helps our O run, and we could score, get up by a lot, have some quick face-off goals, and it's a big part of our game.
Mellon not only wins possession as the face-off guy, he also has the ability to get forward and has become a very big scoring threat.
Part of our mantra as a team is that we're not going to specialize. We think that there's a lot of inefficiencies when you have teams that sub 3 middies off and 3 middies on. So we know from day one at JV level, it's you're going to play everywhere, you're going to face off, you're going to play defense, and then hopefully you'll be a well-rounded player. And again, it's innate instinct.
Garrett Mellon is one of a number of players who are very capable of putting the ball in the back of the net. Ryan Wheat set a school record for points last year as a junior and has continued the scoring into his senior season.
Definitely helps a lot because when he goes, he draws a lot of defenders, so that opens me up a lot, and then I always have an open shot. So it's definitely a big advantage. I like to drive, but I love to shoot once off. If, say, my teammates drive in, I love to catch and shoot. That's one of my favorite plays.
I think that is one of our key elements in winning, because if anyone takes away one of our players, we still have 5 more that can easily score and consistently score.
We are 2 weeks away from the state track and field meet, and there's a pirate from Rocky River who's sailing to Columbus to compete. Michael Schoaf is a defending state champ in the shot put, and he's a contender in the discus too. But he's already won a national title in the weight throw, all because of his dad, who spent a lot of time in Columbus too. Here's Michael Schoaf, our Cuyahoga Community College student athlete with a future. Cuyahoga Community College, where futures begin. In Rocky River, he is called the Pirate Cannon. Statewide, Michael Schoaf is the #1 shot putter in Ohio because of some advice he got from his father in the 8th grade.
There's a little bit, I was pretty good at discus. My first year, I did decent. Then my dad also said, hey, you should try shot. Because he did in high school, he was really good at it too. So he's like, you should try shot. I mean, you're a good hurdler and all that, but you should do shots. I was like, all right.
His father, Mick Schoaf, played football at Ohio State in the late 80s, and his work ethic has been passed down to Michael.
He works hard in the weight room all the time, and I know he listens to his coaches, and he works on his technique, and he eats right, and he gets the right amount of rest. He does all the things that the competition's doing as well, so really proud of him.
It all paid off in March of last year. Schoaf won the indoor state title in the shot put. 1 week later, he was in New York for the New Balance Nationals, where Michael finished first in the weight throw in a record-setting performance.
There's another really good competitor there too, and we just went back and forth for actually the meet record there, so that was beyond exciting for me, because I know he threw it on his last throw, he beat the meet record, then on my last throw I beat him. So I mean, it was just a crazy meet.
With the win, Michael became Rocky River's first boy All-American in track. Then he became a state champion. Schoaf won the shot put, finished second in the discus, and became the first Pirate in 94 years to win 2 medals at state.
The thing that Mike has established himself too is that, once he's graduating, his accomplishments in terms of what he's done the last few years here, the number of years with us, is going to have a long-lasting effect.
We were having a discussion with some of his teammates last night, and they were talking about how quiet he is and how humble and unassuming he is about his accomplishments.
Michael will be throwing in South Bend, Indiana next year at Notre Dame, and he'll travel there with a 3.9 GPA, which has been his best accomplishment yet.
Throwing won't take me forever in my life, so I'm really excited that I could still do something later on. Academics, like I just said, they've helped me get everywhere.
Michael also played football for Rocky River. This season, he was named All-State, and the National Football Foundation honored him for his academics. Good luck to him at South Bend.
We're just getting things rolling on this week's show. We'll head to the Diamond and meet a Panther in the circle who's tough to beat, and a Golden Flash who just keeps meeting challenges. The High School Sports Insider will be right back.
I decided to go to Tri-C because it was easy to commute to. I was able to start Kent State as a junior. All my credits from Tri-C transferred to Kent State. I will be able to earn my bachelor's degree in 4 years. I saved a lot of money starting at Tri-C. My name is Stephanie Bain, and I earned my first degree at Cuyahoga Community College.
The High School Sports Insider rolls along. Thanks for riding shotgun with us. Champion softball was unbeaten and Division III state champs a season ago. They graduated the Player of the Year in Ohio, but are once again ranked as the top team in the state in Division III as they head into tournament play. Emma Gumont came up big in the state title game as a freshman last year and is now tackling a new challenge for champion this season as a sophomore. Emma Gumont, our Spectrum News 1 Game Breaker. As a freshman, she had one of the biggest hits in Champion High School state championship season. Freshman Emma Gumont hit a grand slam that blew open the title game in the 5th inning.
I haven't been hitting good. That game I dropped down to, I think it was 7th. So a couple games before that, my confidence was dropping, and so when I went up there, I pulled myself together and I was like, just hit it hard, and that's what I did. Honestly, when it happened, I was kind of I remember the song that played, it was Miley Cyrus, and I just think of it all the time. It was such a good feeling.
Gumont just continues to take on challenges. In her sophomore season, Emma has moved to shortstop for the Golden Flashes, replacing Megan Turner, who graduated as Ohio's Player of the Year a season ago.
Filling Megan's position is really, really hard, so I knew stepping up to the plate for that would be super difficult, but I just have to stay confident and try my best always.
She's doing a great job. You know, she's learning. She's seeing how some of them shots come a lot quicker than out there in the outfield. But, you know, I got to compliment her. She's doing a great job.
After a slow start to her sophomore season at the plate, Gumont has gotten back on track. She's hitting right around 400 and is second on the team in RBIs and home runs with 7 long balls on the season.
She was down a little bit this year because she just felt like she wasn't hitting the ball like she should. But then yesterday, what'd she do? We need 1 run, she parks it over the fence. You know, so it's just, I think it's a lot of adjustment this year for taking over shortstop, learning, you know, that position a little bit more.
I'm trying to work on every single time, just hit it hard, no matter what. And if it goes, it'll go. But I have been dropping my shoulder and popping it up a lot, but I'm really trying to work on that and stick with line drives. My contact with the ball has been really good. I need to stay off the high pitches and just wait for the one that's good.
Gumont is realizing she's strong enough that she can drive the ball out of the park to any field. She doesn't really try to need to pull everything.
Yeah, I just need to pick the good pitches. That's what I'm trying to do.
As we head into district play for softball, Massillon Perry is the defending state champ in Division I, and Peyton Gottschall is back in the circle for another run. The Panther senior can fool hitters with so many different pitches, and she doesn't fool around when it comes to her homework. Here's Peyton Gottschall, this week's Ohio Lottery Partners in Education Shining Star. If a softball team wants to win a state title, it must have the right girl in the circle. And Perry has Peyton Gottschall.
Yeah, it can be challenging at sometimes, but like I live for that. And like I love a good challenge. So then it just like pushes me to do better, and like I'm really competitive.
Gottschall stepped into the spotlight in late April of last year when the Panthers ace went down with an injury. With a unique mix of pitches and crazy movement, Peyton and the Panthers won their first state championship in 8 years.
My pitching coach has always forced spins to work on that. Because I mean speed's nice, but you're not really going to get anywhere if you don't have spin and movement on your ball.
I've been able to talk to some coaches that have watched her from kind of a bird's eye view, say in a press box. They've described her pitches as cartoonish. Just because of the kind of movement you get, and you don't hear that very often with softball pitchers.
Peyton recorded almost 200 strikeouts last year with a .87 ERA, with her best friend, Gia Durio, behind the plate.
She'll look at a batter, and she knows if they're more inside, and we call an outside pitch, I'll shake it off, and then she knows exactly to go to inside.
Just being close with your pitcher, it's big, and that plays a major role. So. And I'm best friends with Peyton outside, so we get each other, we're around each other a lot, and we definitely have a special bond.
Their bond will be broken in the fall when Gottschall pitches on scholarship at the University of Tennessee at Martin. With a 3.8 GPA, Peyton loves to work hard in everything she does.
I love to work for stuff, everything I have, I want to earn it myself. Because I like to bust my butt as a pitcher and show the team I have their backs.
If you know a student who shines in the classroom like Peyton, go to OhioLottery.com. Look for the About section, and in there you'll find the Supporting Education tab, which has all the information you need.
If you missed some of today's show or want to see past episodes, they're online and free. What a deal, I know. Head to citybeat-tv.com. That's citybeat-tv.com.
Still to come, Dave will sit down with Bo Rugg of the OHSAA in a special All Access. Stick around.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine. Welcome back to the High School Sports Insider. We have a special all-access edition from the OHSAA headquarters in Columbus, and we're pleased to be joined by Bo Rugg. Bo is the Senior Director of Officiating and Sports Management here at the OHSAA. And Bo, the thing I want to talk to you about is the officiating shortage. Pretty much in all sports we've heard. How real is it? How much of a concern is it for you?
Well, those are all great questions. It is a big concern. It's kind of a big concern nationally. Some sports are in more need than others, and that creates issues in and of itself. What we try to do is focus both our local associations and our directors of officiating development as their highest priority is recruitment. We've had some really good success in some areas, especially in the areas of our high schools in general. We've got over 20 high schools now that have officiating as part of their curricula, and that's a good thing. We want to keep people involved in the sport that love the sport, and I like to call them the 96%. The 96% that don't play at the next level, we'd like to keep them involved. So that's a big push of ours. It's been a big push from the National Federation of High School Sports nationally, and that's a good thing. That's one area. The other area that we really need to work hard on is that adult group and recruiting better. And you know, our schools and our coaches are so great. I've had coaches reach out to me as recently as yesterday to say they want to help, and they're suggesting some ideas. And I had a coach the other night at a league meeting say, you know, let's get our coaches to talk to our parents, because they have a parent meeting, and say, hey, when your athlete is done playing, you need to stay involved. You need to be a part of this. And that's what we need to do. We need to get people that are involved in the sport to stay in the sport.
You're a former official, so you understand the challenges. There was, you know, a big thing nationally about the National Federation kind of coming out and saying, hey, stop, you know, the heckling and abusing of officials. How big of a challenge is that? Is that chasing people away from wanting to be officials?
Yeah, the National Association of Sports Officials did a survey, and they got 18,000 respondents across the country, and that was number one that's driving people away from officiating. So it's real. It's something we have to look at. I still look at the positives in the fact that interscholastic sport is the best environment, and our schools want to be part of the solution. So if we work together and we attack this, we can get it right. And we have a better chance of getting it right than you do in the recreational setting and the youth setting, where they don't have the communities involved as much as you have in a high school community. So I think I have great hopes for that, but we have a lot of work to do. Make no bones about that. We have a lot of work to do in this area.
Say somebody wants to become official. And I know it varies from sport to sport, but by and large, how long you have to take classes, and what goes into that? And then there's obviously a test as well.
Correct. In every sport, to become an official, there will be a test. In some sports, that's all you have to do is test in and then you go. But most of our big team sports are, and we're one of the few states that requires a class. Now, there's some good news there in that we have really restructured a lot of our classes in general, in that we have some weekend classes. We have several classes. Wrestling's a good example, where they have a weekend class that's in association with an autism tournament, that the class people get to actually work the tournament at the end. So they're really ready to go at the end, versus in some of them it's tough. It's like, okay, I went through this class, now what do I do? So it's different. we have a better retention rate because of the classes, because they feel more comfortable rather than just testing in and then thrown to the wolves per se. So part of that is the class, and then we want to get them tied into our local associations, and some of them have really good mentoring programs. So that's the other thing about the shortage of officials that we have to work on, that we are working on, is retention. Our retention rates have to improve, and because our recruiting is pretty good, can get better, but the retention rates have to improve.
Biggest challenge for you as far as officiating goes and moderating it? What's the biggest thing that you're working on that that you kind of trying to figure it out?
Wow, I don't know if there's one, but it is the viability of having enough officials. The good news is when we talk about regional and state, and that in almost every sport, we have a lot of good officials. So the base of what we need for tournament is pretty good, and that's good news. The tough thing is keeping people involved. That's probably the number one. And when I say keeping people involved, the challenge is, how do we build the base? Because what you don't want to have is you got 30 people that can do the state in wrestling, and they do the state every year and no one gets to do that, so the base doesn't get built. And so we've had some great success in basketball, in some districts, in football, of building that base and getting people that experience to keep them motivated and keep them there. If I'm an official for 6 or 7 years in basketball, I need to be doing sectional basketball. And so we have to get new people involved in that to help the retention. That's probably the biggest thing, is building the base.
Bo Rugg, we appreciate the time. Thanks very much.
Happy to do it, and thanks for having me.
We are going to take a quick time out. When we return to this edition of the High School Sports Insider, the tweets of the week straight ahead. Stay with us. We want you to get more involved in the show, and you can through social media. Follow us on Twitter. We're at HS Sports Insider and at Dave Bacon Sports. Tweet us your story ideas, pictures, or video showing your school spirit. We'll use it in a future show. We're still plugging away on Facebook as well. Head to our page and like us. We're at High School Sports Insider.
I've got a 4-year degree. I wasn't really able to find a job despite putting out over 100 applications, so I decided to go back to school. Tri-C really did change my life. After getting my degree from Tri-C, I'm working in the IT field. I work at a job I love. Life is good, thanks to Tri-C. My name is Josh Gatka, and I received my IT degree from Tri-C.
Welcome back inside the High School Sports Insider. We've come to the part of the show where we want your input and help. You know, we're always on the lookout for great performances, outstanding plays, or just high school kids having fun. That's where you come in. When you see something like that going on, please let us know about it. A few rules: you have to use 280 characters or less. Video or pictures, even better. It's time for the tweets of the week. Salem sophomore Lane Rhodes gets the honor of wearing the Quaker Sam hat after his complete game one-hit shutout win over Carrollton High School. Mount Vernon High School is celebrating their third straight Ohio Cardinal Conference championship in softball. The Yellow Jackets begin the state tournament as the top-ranked softball team in Ohio in Division I. And our thoughts and prayers go out to Cleveland Heights High School. Their legendary basketball coach, Jim Capoletti, passed away. He was 85. Coach Cap was a fixture in area gyms and will be missed. Keep those tweets coming. We want your story ideas or your pictures or video showing your school spirit. Tweet those to us. We're at HS Sports Insider or at Dave Bacon Sports. Use hashtag HSSI Ohio. Again, that's at HS Sports Insider or at Dave Bacon Sports. Use hashtag HSSI Ohio. We'll use a few of them on upcoming shows as the tweets of the week. Now we are officially all out of time on this week's show. Before we go, we want to thank you for taking the time to join us. We hope to see you back here next week, same time, same place, when again, we'll have some of the best high school sports stories from all across Ohio.
And as always, thanks for supporting high school athletics. Have a great night.